Well, so the all-new Honda Amaze is finally here, and yes, it does look like a miniature version of the Honda City, which means that this car is already off to a good start, because remember what they say, half the battle is won if you look good. The big news though is that this is a full model change. It is a completely new car from the ground up. It's not an MMC, it's not a minor model change, it is a full model change. And is it a viable alternative to the likes of the Maruti Suzuki Dzire as well as the Hyundai Accent? That's the big question we'll try and answer today. Well, if you're planning to sell your car before buying this one, then you should consider Cars24. Visit any of their 50 branches across India and sell your car at the best price. Not only this, Cars24 will also instantly transfer the money into your bank account and will take care of all the paperwork, including the RC transfer. So do check out Cars24 today. Well, as I just mentioned, this is a full model change, and that means that the cabin has been completely reworked on. It is a very nice cabin to be in now. You get very good quality of plastic all across the cabin now, and even the smaller switches have a nice feel about themselves. In terms of overall ambience and quality, this car can definitely match up with the Hyundai Accent as well as the Maruti Dzire. Now, the original Amaze came with very thin cushioning for the seats, but I have good news for you on the new Amaze, because this one has pretty good support all across, and the cushioning also is pretty good. You get good support for your under thighs. The support for the lower back also is spot on, and you also get these nice bolsters all across, which means that if you do decide to push this kind of corners, these seats should hold you well. The other good news is that you finally get Apple's CarPlay as well as Android Auto. So if you do use an Apple iPhone or you have a Google phone, then this system can be connected directly with your phone, and the apps on the phone will be mirrored over here. So that's quite a nice touch that Honda has given on the Amaze. Well, but that's not all. You also get a couple of USB charging points here, as well as a 12-volt socket, which means that if you are someone who's always using his mobile phone, then you have plenty of charging points inside this car. And in terms of utility places, you get a couple of beverage holders right over here, and the door bins also are large enough to house those big money bottles. There's also a beverage holder here, and the glove box is of a pretty decent size, but it's not air cooled. Now, Honda, remember, has also increased the width of the new Amaze, which means that the cabin in the front feels a lot more airy and a lot more brighter than it did in the original Amaze. So it is a nice and open area to sit in. And overall, as I just said, the cabin's ambience is pretty good, and out of 5, I would definitely give it a strong 4 stars. Well, now most other compact sedans always compromise either on headroom or knee room, and they do feel like compact sedans in the back seat. But I have good news for you. As you can see, the knee room over here is more than adequate inside the Amaze. Headroom also is more than sufficient, and my height for reference is 5'10", and I have about 4 or 5 inches between my head and the roof. So someone who's about 6'1" or maybe even 6'2" should be quite okay in these seats. The seats themselves are pretty good in terms of comfort. You get very good support for your under thighs. The backrest angle is absolutely spot on, and whoever's sitting in the middle has decent place to stretch his feet, because remember, this car's width also has been increased and the floor panel is almost completely flattish. What's more, you also get a 12-volt charging point over here, which means that if you are someone who enjoys to be on his phone on the go, you have plenty of place to keep those devices charged up. And you also get this little armrest to sit here like the boss. The other good point is that the doors open really nice and wide, and the entry aperture also in this car is pretty big. So if you have older parents at home, then they will just slide into this car and it will be nice and easy for them. $420. Now that's a bit of a naughty number in India, but when it comes to the Amaze, it is the best number for the Amaze, and it is ahead of the Accent, the Dzire, as well as the Tata Tigor when it comes to sheer boot capacity. What's more, you get a nice and boxy boot. It's a square shaped boot, it's a deep boot, and even though there is a bit of a loading lip here, it's not a big issue at all, because it is a very well shaped boot. The aperture also is pretty big, which means that if you have those big and heavy boxes to load in, it should not be an issue in the least. And as I always say, it is a very good car for those airport transfers for the entire month's luggage of your mother-in-law. It gets a double thumbs up from me. Well, so in terms of the engine options, you get the same tried and tested 1.2 litre petrol as well as the 1.5 litre diesel. The diesel makes 100 bhp in its manual format, but remember there's a new CVT option also available on the diesel, and that has been slightly detuned. It's 80 bhp, and that's about 20 bhp lower than the manual version of the diesel. The petrol makes 90 bhp in both manual as well as CVT formats. Now, as I just mentioned, the CVT option on the diesel is the first ever time that Honda has made a CVT with a diesel, and I have to say that it is an impressive performer. You get very linear power delivery, and it's an effortless car to drive around in the city. If you are someone who wants the low running costs of a diesel engine along with the hassle-free nature of a automatic gearbox, then the CVT automatic is really the choice to go for. It is definitely ahead of its other rivals who offer AMT gearboxes, because unlike AMT gearboxes, which are very jerky in their nature, the CVT on the Honda Amaze diesel is a lot more linear, both when it comes to upshifting as well as going down the gears. Well, what you'll also like on the diesel version is the fact that refinement levels have been considerably improved over the earlier Amaze as well as the current Honda City. Now, Honda has used a lot of new sound deadening material under the hood as well as the bonnet area, and has also reworked on the engine. So this new diesel engine, or the improved diesel engine on this Honda Amaze, is a lot more quieter than the earlier car. Well, not only is the diesel engine a nice engine in terms of responsiveness from lower RPMs, especially on the CVT, it's also pretty good for fuel economy. Now, Honda claims figures in excess of 27 kpl for the manual version and 23.8 kpl for the CVT, and knowing Honda, these are figures which are quite believable. The petrol also is quite good when it comes to fuel economy, and Honda claims figures in excess of 19 kpl for both the manual as well as the automatic versions of the petrol engine. Now, if you had to choose the engine and gearbox option on the Amaze, which option would you choose? Well, if I were in your position, I would definitely choose the manual petrol version of the car. And why is that? Well, simply because this car is all the car you'll need for moving around in the city and also for driving on the highway, because the gearbox is light, it's nice and crisp to operate. The clutch also has a very nice and smooth action, and the steering wheel is very decent and very light in operation, so you don't have to put in too much effort while you have to move it around. Now, that said, it is pretty feelsome as well. It has good feedback and it's pretty communicative and does talk to you when you do take it out on the highway and push it into those hilly sections. So it's not a steering wheel which feels dead, and it is the best mix of sporty handling as well as comfortable driving. The petrol engine makes 90 bhp of power, which is all the power you'll truly ever need. And if you do decide to take this car out on the highway, this car will really offer you a very nice and pliant ride. It definitely feels a lot more stable than your last girlfriend did, and that said, it feels a lot more stable than its other main rivals. As speeds increase, the car does not feel light-footed or light-headed, and it doesn't seem to bob around the place. It really does stick to the road very nicely, and as I just said, it definitely feels a lot more stable than your last girlfriend. The petrol engine is also pretty good in terms of the performance. Now, it's redlined at about 6,500 RPM, and it really does make a lot of power towards its upper end of the band. It's pretty responsive towards the lower end of the band as well, and that, along with this nicely ratioed manual gearbox, means that it is a nice combination for people who want the Amaze, because remember, this is the most affordable variant in the lineup, and as I just said, it's truly all the variant that you'll ever really need. Well, most buyers will also appreciate the fact that Honda has given the Amaze a nice balanced suspension setup. Neither is it overtly hard, neither is it overtly soft. So what that means is that when you're driving this car in the city, you don't really have to slow down to a dead halt for those rumble strips. You can easily glide over them, and even on the highway, this car remains very well planted and feels like it does have loads of grip on that highway road. Well, so in summary, the Honda Amaze is a car which doesn't really feel like a compact sedan. In fact, it feels like a proper mid-size sedan. And what I'm essentially trying to say is that with its long list of features, its spacious cabin and its big boot, as well as its fuel efficient and refined engines, you'll actually end up going to a Honda dealership and think, do I really need to invest that money in the city when the Amaze is so good? This car really is a very good product, and as I just said, one of the better compact sedans out there in the market, if not the best. It's bye for now, and hope to see you soon.